Have you ever seen a mafia boss spend 12 years trapped in a wheelchair inside a luxurious mansion, then break down crying just because a poor little girl held his hand and helped him take a step? Vincent Moretti, the powerful mafia boss feared throughout Chicago's underworld, lost the use of his legs after a horrifying car bombing that nearly killed him. For 12 long years, he lived imprisoned in a wheelchair inside a massive mansion that felt colder than a tomb. 210 of the world's greatest neurologists were flown in on private jets. Billions of dollars were spent on surgeries, therapy, and the most expensive medicine imaginable. But every doctor hopelessly declared that Vincent Moretti would never stand again. And then one cold, rainy afternoon, Lily Bennett, the poor 9-year-old daughter of the mansion's new housemaid, quietly walked toward the mafia boss's wheelchair. The little girl gently held Vincent's tattooed hand, then smiled innocently. "I'll walk with you, so don't be scared, okay?" Nobody could have imagined that such a tiny moment would change everything. Beneath the freezing rain in the mansion garden, the poor little girl kept holding Vincent Moretti's hand while helping him take his first steps in 12 long years. The legs that had been declared permanently paralyzed suddenly began trembling with movement again. One doctor standing nearby dropped an entire medical file onto the stone ground. Another grabbed his head in complete shock while staring at the nerve monitor like he had gone insane. And Vincent Moretti, the man who had never bowed before anyone in his life, broke down crying beneath the rain as the little girl's innocent laughter echoed beside him, because for the very first time after 12 years of hopeless despair, he had stood up on his own again. And the thing that made the mafia boss's heart ache more than anything else was the way Lily continued tightly holding his hand, as if she was afraid he might fall again. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to reflect on the quiet power of kindness, especially when no one else chooses to show it. Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. Which city and country are you in, and what time is it there right now? It's always amazing to see how stories like this connect people from all over the world. Is it United States, London, maybe Canada, Jamaica, South Africa, or anywhere we want to know? And tell us what you learned at the end of this video. If moments like this remind you of the beauty of humanity, please like the video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss more powerful stories that celebrate compassion, courage, and the simple acts of kindness that can change your life. In the shadowed heart of Chicago, where the icy winds off Lake Michigan cut through the city like invisible knives, Vincent Moretti lived as a ghost in his own empire. The mansion sat like a fortress on the waterfront, its marble halls and towering windows overlooking the restless gray waters. Crystal chandeliers hung motionless above rooms filled with silence. For 12 long years, Vincent had ruled his world from a sleek black wheelchair, his once powerful legs now useless after the car bomb that nearly ended him. The best neurologists in the country had delivered the same verdict. Their voices heavy with defeat, there was no hope for recovery. He was paralyzed, trapped between the luxury he had built and the emptiness that consumed him. Vincent was a fair-skinned American, born and raised in the tough neighborhoods of Chicago. A man who had climbed to the top of a dangerous world through sheer will and sharp intellect. Now in his early 40s, his face remained handsome, but haunted with silver threading through his dark hair and deep lines etched around his piercing blue eyes. To the outside world, he was still the ghost, the powerful mafia boss whose influence reached into city halls and back alleys alike. Yet inside the mansion, he was simply a man drowning in gnawing guilt and consuming remorse. Later that night, Vincent sat alone in the vast study, the fire crackling softly in the stone fireplace. His hands gripped the arms of the wheelchair until his knuckles turned white. Memories of the explosion replayed endlessly, the flash of light, the screams of lost friends, the crushing weight of choices that had led him there. He had built an empire on power and fear, but it had cost him everything human. No wife, no children, no laughter echoing through these cold halls. Only the quiet tick of antique clocks and the distant hum of security guards patrolling the grounds. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, in a crumbling South Side neighborhood where abandoned factories loomed like broken giants, Claire Bennett fought a daily war for survival. She was a resilient 32-year-old American woman, thin and malnourished from years of hunger, her once bright hazel eyes now dulled by exhaustion. Her clothes were threadbare, patched together from donations at the local shelter. For months, she had slept on cold park benches or in the back of an old, rusted car that no longer ran the wind howling through cracked windows during freezing nights. Her young daughter Lily clung to her side, a fragile 9-year-old with the same hazel eyes and a spirit that refused to break completely. The poverty they endured was absolute and humiliating. Claire worked odd jobs when she could find them, scrubbing floors, washing dishes in greasy diners, but the pay was never enough. Landlords had evicted them repeatedly. Soup kitchens sometimes turned them away when lines were too long. One particularly cruel evening, after a long day of rejection, Claire had stood outside a closed food bank in the pouring rain, holding Lily close as the little girl shivered violently. "Mommy, I'm so cold," Lily had whispered, her voice soft and timid. Claire's heart tore apart. She felt dizzy, numb, a deep disorientation washing over her as she realized how powerless she truly was. How could the world be so unjust to a mother who only wanted to protect her child? Weeks later, fate wove their paths together in a way no one could have predicted. Vincent had ventured out that afternoon in his armored SUV, driven by his most trusted man. A tense meeting with rival factions had left him on edge. Marco the Butcher Rossi, a ruthless competitor hungry for more territory, had been encroaching on his operations. As the vehicle rolled through the south side, Vincent stared out the tinted window, his mind heavy with inner conflict. He had ordered actions in the past that haunted him, decisions made to protect his people that had destroyed innocent lives. The guilt gnawed at him like a living thing. Suddenly the driver slowed. Up ahead, a chaotic street confrontation was unfolding. A group of aggressive men clearly connected to Rossi's crew had cornered a desperate woman and her small daughter near an alley. The men shouted threats, demanding money. The women did not have their voices loud and intimidating. Claire stood protectively in front of Lily, her thin frame trembling but her voice steady with quiet courage. "Please, we have nothing," she said softly, politely, though fear flashed in her eyes. Lily clutched her mother's worn coat, tears streaming down her cheeks. Vincent's heart lurched with violent emotional conflict. Something in the woman's exhausted but resilient posture and the child's innocent fear struck him like a thunderbolt. From the very first moment, he saw them. An overwhelming surge of protective love, fierce, paternal, and intense, flooded through him. This was not romance. It was the raw instinct of a man who had lost his own humanity, recognizing a chance to reclaim it. He could not look away. The gnawing guilt inside him intensified. How many families had suffered because of the world he helped create? "Stop the car," Vincent ordered, his voice low but commanding. His men moved quickly but carefully, emerging to de-escalate the situation without excessive force. Words were exchanged, tensions rose in a bold street standoff, but Vincent's reputation alone made Rossi's men back down. As the rivals retreated into the shadows, Vincent wheeled himself closer to Claire and Lily. Claire stared at him, confusion and shock washing over her. She felt dizzy, her balance wavering as the powerful stranger in the expensive suit and wheelchair looked at her with an intensity she could not understand. Horror mixed with intense curiosity. Who was this man? Why would someone like him help people like them? "Are you hurt?" Vincent asked gently, his blue eyes searching hers. His inner turmoil raged, remorse for the kind of life that had led to this moment, yet a deep, consuming determination to protect them. Claire's voice was timid and polite, barely above a whisper. We're okay, sir. Thank you." But inside, her emotions churned violently. She felt numb, disoriented by the sudden shift from danger to safety. This powerful man, clearly wealthy beyond anything she had ever seen, had stepped in like a guardian from another world. The stark gap between his world and hers felt overwhelming, almost painful. Vincent insisted they come with him. His men helped them into the SUV with quiet respect. As they drove toward the mansion, Claire held Lily close, her mind racing with fear and guarded curiosity. Lily, wide-eyed, looked at the kind-faced man in the wheelchair. "Are you a hero, mister?" the little girl asked softly. Vincent's throat tightened. The question pierced his heart, stirring years of buried remorse. In that moment, the fatherly bond began to form a powerful, protective love for this vulnerable child and her struggling mother. He saw in Lily the innocence he had long ago lost. His emotional conflict deepened. Could a man like him, stained by violence and power, truly offer safety? The guilt tore at him, but so did the fierce resolve to try. Next morning, inside the mansion, Claire stood in one of the guest rooms, staring at the soft bed, clean clothes, and warm meal laid out for them. She had not slept in a real bed for longer than she could remember. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she watched Lily eat warm, deep-dish pizza, a simple American comfort she had only dreamed of. The wealth surrounding them felt almost absurdly unfair after the cold nights and empty stomachs they had endured. Claire's inner world was violently torn, gratitude mixed with deep suspicion. Why would this stranger care? What did he want? Vincent watched from the hallway, hidden partially by the doorframe, his chest heavy. The sight of their relief brought him a flicker of light he had not felt in 12 years. Yet the remorse consumed him. He had rescued them from the streets, but his own empire had helped create those streets. In quiet stillness, he whispered to himself, "I will protect them. I must." Days turned into a careful routine. Claire remained guarded, her voice soft and polite when speaking to Vincent. who was clearly older and carried an aura of authority. She helped around the mansion when she could, her resilient spirit shining through even as anxiety and fear lingered. Lily, however, began to warm to the man in the wheelchair. She would sit beside him in the garden overlooking the lake, sharing small stories or attempting silly street dance moves to make him smile. Each giggle from the child chipped away at Vincent's emotional walls. Later that night, as the mansion grew quiet, Vincent sat alone once more. The inner turmoil had grown even more intense. He felt a profound fatherly responsibility toward Lily, this vulnerable child who had already begun healing something deep inside him. And toward Claire, a deep compassion and protective love burned fiercely. He vowed silently that no harm would come to them again, even if it meant confronting the darkest parts of his world. The isolated Dawn was no longer entirely alone. But with this new light came Shadow's rival threats from Marco Rossi, who would not let such weakness go unchallenged, and the violent emotional storms raging within Vincent's heart. For the first time in years, however, he dared to hope that kindness could redeem even the most broken soul. Next morning, sunlight filtered through the tall windows of the Lake Michigan mansion, casting long golden patterns across the polished hardwood floors. Vincent Moretti sat in his wheelchair on the expansive terrace overlooking the restless water, the cool breeze carrying the faint scent of fresh water and distant city life. The vast estate stretched around him, manicured lawns, blooming flower beds, and a private dock where his sleek boats rested unused. Servants moved quietly in the background preparing fresh coffee and warm pastries, but Vincent barely noticed. His mind churned with fresh layers of torment. Rescuing Claire and Lily had stirred something buried deep within him, a paternal instinct that now clawed at his conscience with unrelenting force. How could a man who had caused so much hidden suffering suddenly feel this burning need to shield a child he had only just met? Claire Bennett stood a respectful distance away in the doorway, her thin frame still wrapped in one of the simple new sweaters provided by the household staff. The contrast between her worn, malnourished appearance and the luxury surrounding her felt like a cruel joke from the universe. She had spent the previous night in a real bed for the first time in months, yet sleep had evaded her, replaced by waves of guarded confusion. Her body ached from years of deprivation, hollow cheeks, trembling hands from constant hunger, and the memory of countless wind-bitten nights huddled with Lily under thin blankets in abandoned lots. Now here she was, powerless and overwhelmed, accepting help from a stranger whose quiet power made her heart race with anxious uncertainty. "Thank you again for the room, sir," she said softly, her voice timid and polite as she addressed the older man. Inside her thoughts spun in dizzying disorientation. This sudden safety felt too fragile, too unreal, after so many unjust hardships. Vincent turned his wheelchair slightly, his blue eyes softening as they fell on Lily, who had wandered out onto the grass. The 9-year-old girl, still barefoot despite the new clothes, moved with a quiet curiosity that pierced his guarded heart. Her small feet left faint prints on the dew-covered lawn, a reminder of the streets they had escaped. He felt an overwhelming surge of protective attachment from the very first extended moment with her, not mere pity but a fierce, paternal love that burned intensely, filling the hollow spaces left by 12 years of isolation. This child, with her resilient spark, represented everything his violent world had stolen from him. The remorse gnawed deeper, now twisting violently in his chest as he reflected on the unfair cruelties that had shaped her young life. Later that afternoon, while Claire helped in the kitchen with hesitant, grateful hands, Lily slipped away unnoticed. The girl had always found small joys in movement, even during the worst times. She approached the terrace where Vincent sat alone, his powerful frame still commanding despite the wheelchair. Lily paused at the edge of the garden, her hazel eyes wide with innocent wonder. The man looked lonely, like the empty park she and her mother had once slept near. Something stirred in her, that same gentle spirit that had kept them going through evictions and empty stomachs. Without a word, she stepped onto the soft grass and began to dance. Her movements were simple yet full of life, pure American street energy, adapted to her playful imagination. She popped and locked her arms in rhythmic bursts, imitating the basketball dribbles she had seen older kids perform on cracked Southside courts. Then she shifted into robot motions, her small body jerking mechanically, before breaking into silly spins and hopscotch-inspired hops. No music played except the distant lap of lake waves, but Lily's performance needed none. Her face lit with determination, pulling exaggerated, funny expressions to chase away the heavy stillness around the powerful man. Vincent watched transfixed. A rare, genuine smile tugged at his lips, the first crack in years of emotional ice. The inner conflict raged hotter than before. Here was this barefoot child once enduring humiliating poverty, now offering joy without expectation. His heart tore with violent remorse for the systemic shadows his empire had helped cast over families like hers. Guilt consumed him in waves, making his hands grip the wheelchair arms until they shook. Yet alongside it bloomed an intense paternal bond, a passionate resolve to become the shield this girl deserved. He leaned forward, slightly captivated by her courage. Claire, returning from the kitchen, froze at the terrace edge. Horror and anxiety flashed across her face as she saw her daughter performing for the formidable stranger. She felt a sharp numbness in her limbs, a deep disorientation that made her sway for balance. After so many absurdly unfair rejections, denied shelter because her clothes smelled of the streets, turned away from jobs when employers saw her malnourished thinness, this scene confused her utterly. Why would her child trust so quickly? Yet curiosity burned beneath the fear. "Lily, sweetheart," she called softly, her voice polite but laced with underlying tremor. She approached slowly, torn between gratitude and the instinct to protect what little they had left. Lily paused mid-spin, breathing hard but grinning. "Mommy, look," he smiled. The girl's innocent excitement cut through the tension like a beam of light. Vincent wheeled closer, his expression layered with profound depth. In the quiet, condensed stillness that followed, only the gentle wind rustled the leaves. He studied Claire, the stark gap between his world of crystal glassware and imported furnishings and her history of sleeping in rusted cars during biting Chicago winters, intensifying his emotional upheaval. His love for this small family unit, centered fiercely on the child, surged with protective fire. "She has a gift," he said, his voice steady, yet carrying the weight of inner storms. "Thank you for letting her share it." Weeks later, as routine settled into the mansion, Lily returned to the garden often. One overcast evening, she found Vincent staring at old photographs in a hidden drawer, images of lost associates from his past conflicts. The girl, sensing his distant sorrow, began another dance, this time incorporating gentle storytelling through gestures mimicking firefighters and community helpers she admired from television. Her bare feet moved gracefully on the cool stone paths, each step a silent defiance against the misery she had known. Vincent's remorse deepened into something almost unbearable, a violent tearing at his soul. He had ordered tense street confrontations in the past, to maintain power-bold standoffs, where rival crews backed down under his quiet authority, much like the one that had first brought Claire and Lily into his life. But now those memories clashed brutally with the purity before him. How many children like Lily had suffered because of the unjust world he navigated? The paternal attachment grew stronger, burning with responsibility. He wanted nothing more than to shield her from further pain, to give her the stability his own choices had denied others. Claire observed from a nearby window, her emotions evolving into a complex mix of emerging trust and lingering guarded fear. She recalled the humiliating nights when hunger had left her dizzy and weak, clutching Lily as cold rain soaked their makeshift shelter. Being suddenly enveloped in this wealth, rooms filled with soft American comforts like thick quilts and shelves of books, left her in profound psychological shock. Her voice remained soft and timid when she finally joined them. "She doesn't mean to bother you, sir. We've caused enough trouble." Yet inside attachment flickered, passionate and intense, born from the overwhelming protection Vincent offered her daughter. Vincent met her gaze, his own heart in turmoil. The disparity struck him anew. Her extreme poverty, once marked by sleep-deprived exhaustion and powerless desperation, now contrasted against his empire of influence and resources. In a moment of condensed emotional stillness, he spoke quietly. "She could never bother me. This garden has been too silent for too long." Later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep in her new room, surrounded by plush pillows and warm lighting, Vincent remained on the terrace. The inner conflict escalated, gnawing at him with fresh intensity. He thought of Marco Rossi's encroaching threats, another potential street confrontation looming on the horizon where his men would stand firm without crossing into unnecessary aggression. Protecting Claire, and especially Lily, felt like the one pure act in a lifetime of gray decisions. His paternal love for the child burned brighter, fueling a determination to heal what he could. Claire slipped outside, briefly drawn by the quiet. She stood nearby, still processing the absurdity of her new reality after years of unjust hardship. A wave of curiosity mixed with residual anxiety washed over her, leaving her momentarily numb. Yet as she watched Vincent's thoughtful profile, a deeper trust began to take root, an attachment forged in the garden's gentle magic. The barefoot girl had brought unexpected light into the isolated Dawn's world. But with every smile and dance, the emotional layers within Vincent grew more complex, his remorse and protective instincts colliding in ways that promised both redemption and greater tests ahead. For Claire, the path from suspicion toward attachment unfolded slowly, one tender garden moment at a time, highlighting the profound healing possible when kindness bridged the deepest divides. Next morning, the Lake Michigan breeze carried a sharper chill, rustling the perfectly trimmed hedges that bordered the mansion's private garden. Vincent Moretti positioned his wheelchair beneath the shade of a sprawling oak tree, its ancient branches stretching like protective arms over the emerald lawn. The estate's opulence pressed in from every side, imported marble statues gleaming under the sun, a fountain trickling crystal-clear water into a pond, stocked with rare fish, and distant kitchen aromas of fresh-baked blueberry muffins and sizzling bacon wafting through the air. Yet none of it touched the growing storm inside him. The paternal pull toward Lily had intensified overnight into something almost painful, a fierce attachment that clashed violently with the gnawing remorse for the hidden empire that had allowed such innocent lives to suffer on the streets he indirectly controlled. Claire Bennett lingered near the terrace doors, her frail body still adjusting to the abundance around her. The previous weeks had exposed the depths of her former misery in fresh, humiliating waves. She remembered standing outside a closed shelter one bitter evening. Lily pressed against her. Both of them turned away because the facility had reached capacity while they shivered in threadbare layers against cutting winds. Her thin arms had ached from carrying their few belongings, her stomach hollow from days of skipped meals. Now surrounded by luxury that felt stolen from someone else's dream, Claire experienced a fresh wave of confusion and guarded curiosity. She watched her daughter with anxious eyes, her voice soft and timid when she finally spoke to Vincent. "Lily has always been full of energy, sir. I hope she is not disturbing your peace." Vincent offered a small nod, his blue eyes reflecting layers of inner conflict. The disparity struck him harder today, her history of powerless desperation against his world of unlimited resources. His protective love for the child burned with new intensity, fueling a determination to erase the years of hardship he sensed in their eyes. Lily, drawn once more to the garden's open space, moved with quiet purpose. She had slipped off the new shoes provided by the staff, preferring the feel of cool grass beneath her feet. Approaching Vincent, she offered a shy smile before launching into a fresh performance. This time her dance carried a different spirit, a blend of graceful leaps inspired by street performers she had once watched from alley corners and gentle, storytelling gestures that mimicked families sharing meals around warm tables. Her small body twisted and flowed, each motion infused with an innocence that seemed to push back against the weight of her past. Laughter bubbled up from her as she pretended to juggle invisible balls, her hazel eyes sparkling with pure delight. Vincent felt the first spark ignite deep within. A genuine chuckle escaped him, warming the cold chambers of his heart. The sound surprised even himself, breaking years of silence. In that condensed moment of emotional stillness, with only the fountain's soft murmur and Lily's light footsteps filling the air, his remorse transformed into something sharper, more violent. This barefoot girl who had endured such unjust cruelty was offering him joy without asking for anything in return. His paternal bond deepened into an overwhelming force, a passionate resolve to safeguard her future. As Lily danced closer, she reached out impulsively and took his hand for a playful spin. "You try too, mister. Just move your arms like this." Her laughter rang clear and unrestrained, filling the garden with life. Claire watched from afar, her heart caught between emerging trust and lingering anxiety. The scene stirred fresh disorientation in her, a dizzying numbness at how quickly her daughter had bonded with this powerful stranger after their history of absurd rejections, like being denied school supplies because their address was listed as none. Later that afternoon, during a quiet lull, Lily sat beside Vincent's wheelchair on a stone bench. She chattered about small dreams, her voice full of wonder. "Mommy says one day we will have a real home, but I think we already do here." Then, in an innocent breath, the revelation struck. Lily glanced toward the mansion where Claire was helping fold linens. "Mommy works so hard. She told me my daddy went away before I was born. She said he was a strong man, but the world was too complicated. I wish I could have met him." Vincent froze. The words landed like a silent explosion in his chest. Time seemed to slow as fragments aligned the timing of their brief encounter years ago. Elena. No Claire's face from that one night of connection he had buried under the weight of his dangerous life. The DNA of memory clicked into place with devastating clarity. Lily was his biological daughter, his own flesh and blood born from a hidden moment, and left to suffer in extreme poverty while he ruled from afar. Horror and extreme psychological shock ripped through him, leaving him numb and off balance even in his seated position. The inner tearing escalated into something ferocious, violent conflict between the fatherly love that now consumed him and the consuming remorse for every missed year, every cold night his child had endured because of the world he had helped shape. His hands trembled on the wheelchair rests. Guilt clawed at him with fresh brutality. How had he not seen it sooner? The overwhelming paternal attachment he had felt from the first moment now burned with even greater intensity, laced with a profound responsibility that threatened to shatter him. This child, his daughter, had danced her way into his broken life, revealing a truth that reshaped everything. Claire approached, then, sensing the sudden shift in the air. She saw Vincent's pale face and felt a surge of fear mixed with heightened curiosity. "Is everything all right, sir?" Her voice remained polite and soft, though her thin frame swayed with a wave of dizziness. The absurdity of their situation hit her anew, pulled from humiliating poverty where she had once collapsed from exhaustion after walking miles, seeking work only to be enveloped in this fortress of wealth. Learning the hidden connection would come later, but in this moment she sensed only that something monumental had shifted. Vincent struggled to compose himself, his voice low and measured, despite the storm raging inside. "Your daughter. She has brought more light than I thought possible." The words carried the weight of his discovery, though he withheld the full truth for now needing time to process the violent emotional upheaval. His love for Lily, and by extension the protective compassion he felt toward Claire, intensified into a burning focal point. He would move mountains to make amends, even as remorse threatened to drown him. Weeks later, another tense street confrontation tested his resolve. Vincent had ventured into the city for a discreet meeting, his armored vehicle navigating South Side blocks. Rossi's men appeared unexpectedly at a quiet intersection, their vehicles boxing his in a bold but controlled standoff. Words flew sharply, accusations of territory infringement, but Vincent's calm authority and the visible presence of his loyal drivers forced the rivals to withdraw without escalation. In the aftermath, as his car passed the very alley where he had first rescued Claire and Lily, the fresh memory of his daughter's revelation tore at him again. The unjust hardships they had faced felt even more personal, now fueling a deeper inner conflict. Back at the mansion that evening, in a moment of quiet, condensed stillness, Vincent watched Lily from the terrace as she practiced new dance steps under the fading light. Claire stood nearby, her guarded expression softening into tentative attachment. She still carried the marks of her past, the malnourished thinness, the sleep lines etched from years of restless nights. But the mansion's comforts were slowly easing her exhaustion, yet the psychological shock of their elevated life continued to create waves of confusion and profound gratitude. Vincent's heart raged with layered torment. The revelation had elevated his paternal bond to sacred heights. Lily's innocent kindness was healing wounds he had long considered permanent, even as it exposed the depths of his past failures. In the garden's peaceful hush, he made a silent vow: no matter the cost to his empire, he would ensure his child never face such misery again. The first spark had ignited far more than a smile. It had uncovered a truth that would forever alter the paths of all three, binding them through love, remorse, and the fragile promise of redemption. As night settled over the lake, the mansion lights glowed warmly, but inside Vincent, the emotional flames burned brighter than ever. Next morning, soft light danced across the mansion's sunroom, where tall glass walls offered an unbroken view of Lake Michigan's shimmering surface. Vincent Moretti remained in his wheelchair near a grand piano that had not been played in years, the instrument's polished surface reflecting his contemplative expression. The estate's wealth revealed itself in subtler details today: hand-woven Persian rugs underfoot, original oil paintings of Chicago's historic skyline adorning the walls, and a side table bearing a silver tray of artisanal fruits and fresh pastries flown in from specialty bakeries. Yet these symbols of power only amplified the violent inner conflict tearing through him since the revelation. Knowing Lily was his biological daughter had unleashed a new depth of remorse, a gnawing sense of irreversible loss for every moment of her childhood he had unknowingly allowed to slip into hardship. Claire Bennett moved through the sunroom with careful steps, still carrying the invisible weight of her past. Memories of absurdly unjust nights haunted her freshly, being forced to choose between buying medicine for Lily's fever or food only to watch her daughter weaken while sleeping on damp cardboard in alleyways during relentless Chicago winds. Her body remained thin and marked by long-term malnourishment, her movements tentative, as if the luxury might vanish at any second. She felt a swirl of guarded curiosity mixed with lingering fear when she looked at Vincent, her voice emerging soft and polite. "The children have been asking about the garden again, sir. I hope it is not too much to allow them outside." Vincent met her gaze, his protective attachment to Lily, and the compassionate responsibility he felt toward Claire burning with renewed passion. The disparity between his empire and her history of powerless desperation created fresh psychological pressure, leaving him in quiet turmoil. He nodded slowly, sensing that more layers of their lives were about to unfold. Later that afternoon, Lily bounded into the garden, with newfound energy, pulling along a small group of children who had arrived with Claire after a cautious visit to their old neighborhood to gather belongings. First came Tommy, a sharp-eyed 10-year-old boy with tousled hair and clothes still bearing faint signs of streetwear. Beside him were Lily's younger siblings. 7-year-old Mia, quiet and wide-eyed, clutching a worn stuffed bear, and 6-year-old Nico, energetic but shy, dragging a small backpack. Together they formed a crew of 4, their presence, filling the once silent garden with tentative footsteps and whispered conversations. These children had all tasted the extremes of poverty nights, huddled together in a broken-down vehicle, as freezing gusts seeped through rusted doors, days when meals consisted of nothing but shared scraps from sympathetic strangers. Tommy stopped short upon seeing Vincent in his wheelchair, his small frame tensing with immediate distrust. "Lily, this is the man you told us about," he whispered loudly enough for others to hear, his voice edged with the hard-earned wariness of a boy who had seen too much. "Men with big houses and fancy cars don't help people like us without wanting something back. We should go before it gets bad." Lily tugged her friend forward gently, her innocence clashing with Tommy's suspicion. She began a new kind of play, encouraging the group into light movement games, simple circle dances mixed with pretend storytelling, using fallen leaves as props. Mia and Nico joined hesitantly at first, their laughter emerging in small bursts as they imitated Lily's gentle spins. Vincent observed from the edge of the lawn, his heart aching with profound paternal intensity. Seeing his daughter lead, the others stirred a fresh wave of remorse, violent in its clarity. He had unknowingly contributed to a world where children like these faced such humiliating deprivation while he lived, surrounded by comfort. Claire stood nearby, her emotions shifting into deeper disorientation. The sight of her children playing in such surroundings after enduring sleep-deprived exhaustion and constant hunger left her numb with shock. She approached Vincent with timid steps, her voice barely above a whisper. "Tommy has been through a lot on his own, sir. His family situation, it has made him fearful of kindness from strangers." Inside her, trust grew incrementally passionate in its quiet intensity. As she witnessed Vincent's patient presence, Vincent felt the inner tearing escalate. Tommy's open distrust mirrored the suspicions Vincent himself had once held toward vulnerability, now turned painfully inward. His love for Lily as his secret daughter fueled an even fiercer protective resolve, yet it clashed with gnawing guilt over how his choices had allowed such traumatized children to exist in the shadows. In a condensed moment of emotional stillness, he spoke directly to Tommy. "I understand why you doubt me, son. The world has not been fair to you. But this house is open to all of you now." Tommy crossed his arms, creating a small but tense standoff in the garden. "Big words from someone who probably never slept hungry," he challenged, though his eyes flickered with confused curiosity. The drama built subtly as the boy stepped back, pulling Lily aside for a heated whisper. "Don't get too close. Powerful people break promises." Lily defended Vincent softly, her bond with the man deepening their friendship amid the friction. Weeks later, during another outing into the city, Vincent encountered fresh conflict. His vehicle was halted at an unexpected roadblock arranged by Rossi's associates near an old warehouse district. The rivals emerged from their cars in a bold but measured confrontation, voices raised in accusations of interference. But Vincent's composed authority and strategic words forced them to disperse without further incident. The event heightened his suspense, reminding him of the dangers circling his new family. Returning to the mansion, he found the children gathered in the garden once more, their presence a balm against the outer threats. Mia and Nico had warmed considerably, drawing pictures of lakeside homes on large sketch pads provided by the staff, their small hands moving with delight over materials they had never owned before. Tommy remained guarded, but participated in a group game. Lily invented a gentle version of street basketball, using a soft foam ball. Vincent joined from his wheelchair, offering encouragement that slowly chipped at the boys' walls. Claire watched, experiencing a wave of anxiety mixed with overwhelming attachment. The absurdity of transitioning from begging on corners to this world of abundance left her dizzy and emotionally raw, her thin frame still bearing the scars of past powerlessness. Vincent's remorse intensified into deeper layers during these garden sessions. Each laugh from the crew of 4 highlighted the unjust misery they had escaped. Memories Claire had shared quietly of being denied emergency aid, while Nico suffered a bad cold in the biting cold. His paternal bond with Lily, now known to him, created violent inner conflict, joy at their safety versus torment over the years lost. The protective love extended passionately to all 4 children, solidifying his role as a quiet guardian. Later that night, as the mansion settled into peaceful quiet, Tommy approached Vincent alone on the terrace. The boy's distrust had softened into tentative questions. "Why do you care about kids who have nothing?" Vincent's response carried the weight of his hidden truths. "Because I have seen enough loss. You all deserve more than what the streets offered." In that stillness, friendship began to truly form, though Tommy's lingering doubts promised future tests. Claire joined briefly, her voice polite and filled with emerging trust. "They are smiling more than I have seen in years, sir. Thank you." The disparity between her former humiliating poverty and the current sanctuary continued to evoke profound inner turmoil, yet it also nurtured a burning attachment to the safety Vincent provided. The crew of 4 had brought both distrust and unexpected friendship into the isolated Don's world. Through tense moments and gentle garden interactions, Vincent's emotional landscape shifted further, his remorse and paternal dedication colliding with greater force. As the children's laughter faded into the evening, the mansion felt less like a fortress and more like the beginning of something healing, fragile, complex, and deeply human. Next morning, gentle rays of sunlight spilled across the mansion's sun-drenched conservatory, where exotic plants from distant greenhouses thrived in handcrafted ceramic pots. Vincent Moretti sat near the wide glass doors that opened onto the garden, his wheelchair positioned beside a low table set with fine china cups and steaming herbal tea. The estate's growing display of wealth surrounded him, rare books lining, built-in shelves, a custom sound system playing soft instrumental jazz, and staff preparing a midday spread of fresh salads and grilled sandwiches. Yet these comforts only sharpened the violent inner conflict within him. The knowledge of Lily as his daughter had awakened a relentless paternal ache, one that clashed with deepening remorse for the empire he had built on shadows. An empire that had indirectly allowed his own child to endure such desolation. Claire Bennett arranged a small tray of homemade cookies the children had helped shape earlier, her movements still hesitant despite the weeks of safety. The stark memories of her former life resurfaced in quiet waves, the humiliation of standing in line at overcrowded pantries, only to be told supplies had run out, leaving her and the children to face another night of gnawing hunger while bitter winds whipped through their makeshift shelter in an abandoned lot. Her frame remained slender from prolonged deprivation, her eyes carrying faint shadows of sleepless vigilance. She offered Vincent the tray with a soft, polite tone. "The children insisted on making these for you, sir. They wanted to give something back." Her voice held a new layer of tentative warmth, though confusion still lingered in how completely their world had shifted from powerless struggle to unexpected refuge. Vincent accepted the offering, his blue eyes reflecting a fresh storm of emotion. The simple gesture from the crew of 4 stirred something profound, forcing him to confront the emotional numbness that had encased him for 12 years. His protective love for Lily burned with quiet intensity, extending now to the entire group as a symbol of redemption he desperately sought. Later that afternoon, the garden transformed into a lively yet tender space of healing. Lily led her siblings and Tommy in a new activity, creating a circle of storytelling through movement. She encouraged each child to share a small tale from their past using gentle gestures and improvised steps. Mia spoke softly about dreaming of warm blankets during cold nights, her tiny hands mimicking folding fabric. Nico added playful hops while describing a kind stranger who once shared an apple. Tommy, still cautious, joined with a story of street basketball games that kept him moving when despair threatened to win. Their innocent kindness filled the air, each laugh and shared moment chipping away at Vincent's hardened interior. Claire observed from a nearby bench, experiencing a swirl of heightened curiosity mixed with lingering guardedness. The absurdity of her children thriving in this paradise after enduring such unjust deprivation, being denied housing assistance due to bureaucratic oversights, while Nico shivered with untreated chills left her in a state of profound emotional rawness. She felt a dizzying numbness at the contrast, yet an overwhelming attachment to this new stability began to root itself deeply within her. Vincent wheeled closer to the group, his powerful presence tempered by genuine engagement. When Lily approached him during a quiet pause, she took his hand with simple trust. "Your turn, mister. Tell us something happy from when you were little." In the condensed stillness that followed, with only birdsong and the distant lake waves providing backdrop, Vincent opened a small fragment of his past. He spoke of childhood baseball games in Chicago parks, his voice measured but laced with regret for paths later taken. This tender garden conversation with his secret daughter deepened their father-child bond in ways he had never imagined possible. The paternal attachment surged with passionate force, clashing violently against his gnawing remorse for the years of separation and hardship she had faced alone. Weeks later, the daily rhythm of therapy sessions in the mansion's private gym brought new layers of awakening. Vincent had long avoided these rooms, where specialized equipment gathered dust under the care of visiting specialists. Now, with the children present, the space came alive. Lily and Tommy acted as enthusiastic cheerleaders, Mia and Nico, offering handmade encouragement cards featuring colorful drawings of smiling figures. The 4 children surrounded Vincent during gentle exercises, their pure enthusiasm coaxing small efforts from his body and spirit. Tommy shouted playful coaching tips while Lily held his hand during balance, her touch a silent promise of resilience. Claire assisted quietly, her soft voice offering polite suggestions. Inside, she wrestled with fresh inner turmoil, the shock of moving from desperate poverty where she had once fainted from exhaustion after endless job searches to this environment of resources and care. The disparity evoked a confusing mix of gratitude and lingering fear that it might all disappear, yet her trust in Vincent grew into a burning protective attachment centered on the safety he provided her children. Vincent's heart tore with increasing intensity during these sessions. Each small progress reminded him of the emotional paralysis he had accepted as permanent. His remorse deepened into something almost unbearable as he reflected on how his powerful position had allowed rival influences like Marco Rossi to perpetuate the cycle of street suffering. In private moments with Lily afterward, their bond strengthened further. She sat beside him on the garden path one evening, sharing a quiet story about wishing for a father figure during lonely nights. Vincent listened, his inner conflict raging joy at her openness, colliding with violent self-reproach for not being there. His love for her as his daughter created a compelling emotional core, driving him to confront regrets he had long suppressed. Later that night, as the mansion lights dimmed to a warm glow, another unexpected street confrontation arose during a necessary supply run into the city. Vincent's convoy encountered Rossi's associates at a quiet warehouse access point. The rivals attempted a bold verbal challenge over disputed routes, their tones aggressive yet contained by Vincent's calm, authoritative presence and the strategic positioning of his team. The tension resolved without escalation, but it left Vincent with heightened suspense and a fiercer determination to shield the children from such shadows. Returning to the garden the following day, he found the crew of 4 engaged in a new ritual, planting small flowers in a dedicated corner, their hands covered in rich soil as they talked about growing something beautiful from hard beginnings. Claire joined them, her thin frame moving with greater ease, though the memories of humiliating powerlessness still haunted her quiet reflections. She addressed Vincent with timid politeness. "They are learning hope here, sir. It means more than words can say." In the condensed emotional stillness that settled over the group, Vincent felt his awakening reach a new peak. The innocent kindness of the children, especially Lily's unwavering spirit, forced him to face the consuming remorse for his past decisions. His paternal dedication to Lily evolved into a profound sense of responsibility that extended to all 4, creating tender father-child connections through shared stories and gentle encouragement. Claire's emerging trust added another layer, her attachment a quiet testament to the healing power of protection and compassion. The daily interactions continued to unfold like scenes from a redemptive tale, each moment building on the last. Vincent's inner world, once dominated by isolation, now vibrated with complex emotional depth, remorse fueling his resolve rather than defeating it. As the crew of 4 brought light into the mansion's halls, the isolated Don began to rediscover pieces of his humanity long thought lost. The garden, once a place of solitary reflection, had become a sanctuary of awakening, where the purest hearts mended what power and wealth never could. Next morning, crisp autumn light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the mansion's private rehabilitation room, illuminating state-of-the-art equipment that gleamed under recessed lighting. Vincent Moretti positioned his wheelchair beside parallel bars installed at precise height, the space filled with the quiet hum of monitoring devices and the faint scent of eucalyptus oil from therapeutic balms. The estate continued to reveal its immense wealth through thoughtful details, custom orthopedic cushions imported from specialized artisans, a wall of motivational framed prints depicting Chicago athletes overcoming adversity, and a side cabinet stocked with premium recovery supplements. These elements only intensified the violent inner conflict surging within Vincent. Each session now carried the weight of his secret knowledge about Lily, transforming every small effort into a battlefield between gnawing remorse for lost years and a fierce paternal drive to prove himself worthy of the role he had unknowingly abandoned. Claire Bennett adjusted a stack of soft towels nearby, her slender hands moving with practiced care. Fresh recollections of her past suffering pierced her thoughts. The degrading experience of being turned away from a free clinic because paperwork was incomplete, forcing her to watch Lily battle a persistent cough through another freezing night in a derelict car where wind whistled through broken lichen seals. Her body still showed the toll of prolonged hunger and exhaustion, yet the mansion's abundance created ongoing waves of disorientation. She spoke to Vincent with her characteristic soft, polite tone. "The children have been practicing their cheers, sir. They believe it helps more than the machines alone." Vincent offered a measured nod, his protective attachment to the family unit burning with deepened passion. The contrast between Claire's history of utter powerlessness and his resources fueled a fresh layer of emotional upheaval, compelling him to channel his torment into action. Later that afternoon, the crew of 4 transformed the rehabilitation room into a space of gentle encouragement. Lily orchestrated a new routine, turning therapy into an imaginative adventure. She and Tommy created magic stepping stones, using colorful mats, encouraging Vincent to focus on subtle leg movements while they narrated a story of brave explorers crossing dangerous rivers. Mia and Nico added sound effects with small claps and giggles, their pure enthusiasm filling the air. Tommy, whose distrust had evolved into reluctant respect, offered steady encouragement from the side. "You got this. One push at a time, like we do when the streets get tough." In a condensed moment of emotional stillness, as Vincent concentrated on a faint twitch in his thigh, the first meaningful sign in over a decade, Lily placed her small hand over his. "I believe in you," she whispered. The paternal bond between them surged with profound new intensity. Vincent felt extreme psychological shock ripple through him as the tiny movement occurred, his heart tearing violently between overwhelming joy at this progress and consuming remorse for the suffering his daughter had endured without his protection. This father-child connection, rooted in her innocent faith, became an anchor amid the storm. Claire watched from the doorway, experiencing a surge of anxiety mixed with heightened curiosity. The scene evoked memories of absurdly unfair hardships, being denied winter coats from a charity drive because her name was not on an official list, leaving the children shivering through bitter nights. The leap from such misery to witnessing Vincent's tentative progress in this palace of opportunity left her numb with emotional intensity, her trust solidifying into a passionate attachment centered on the stability he represented for her children. Weeks later, during a routine supply journey into the city, rising stakes manifested in another tense confrontation. Vincent's convoy was suddenly flanked by Rossi's associates near a busy industrial corridor. The rivals initiated a bold verbal standoff, their vehicles inching closer. While issuing thinly veiled warnings about expanding influence, Vincent responded with calm authority, his powerful reputation forcing the group to retreat after sharp exchanges. Though the encounter left an undercurrent of suspense hanging over his return, the incident sharpened his resolve to shield the family from such threats. Back at the mansion, physical progress continued in the garden during golden hour. The children had prepared a special path lined with soft cushions and encouraging signs made from construction paper. Lily guided Vincent's wheelchair along the route, pausing at each station for targeted exercises. Tommy acted as a supportive coach, demonstrating modified movements from his street games. Mia and Nico offered handmade medals fashioned from foil and ribbons, their small faces beaming with pride. Vincent managed a slight shift in his posture, a new sensation traveling down his legs that brought fresh hope laced with inner torment. The remorse gnawed deeper as he imagined all the moments of his daughter's life he had missed: birthdays spent in shelters, holidays marked by empty tables. Claire approached during a quiet pause, her voice timid yet filled with emerging warmth. "They see you trying, sir. It gives them strength they never had before." Inside, she wrestled with profound psychological conflict, the dizzying shift from desperate poverty, where she had once collapsed from dehydration after walking for hours, seeking work, to this world, where her children thrived under genuine care. The disparity evoked tears she held back, her attachment to the safety Vincent provided burning intensely. Vincent's heart raged with escalating layers of conflict during these garden sessions. Each incremental physical gain forced him to confront the emotional paralysis he had accepted as his fate. His paternal love for Lily created violent inner turbulence ecstasy at her role in his awakening, colliding with self-reproach for the empire that had perpetuated the cycle of street suffering for families like hers. In a private moment beside the lake path, Lily shared a new story about dreaming of fathers who teach children to ride bikes. Vincent listened, his remorse transforming into a fiercer dedication, the father-child bond deepening through shared vulnerability and quiet encouragement. Later that night, as stars reflected on the dark surface of Lake Michigan, another unexpected street challenge emerged when Vincent received an urgent message requiring a discreet response. His team navigated a tense standoff at a neutral meeting point on the city's edge, where Rossi's representatives delivered sharp ultimatums about shared territories. Vincent's composed power diffused the situation once more, but the accumulating threats heightened the stakes around his growing family. The following days brought further physical milestones in the rehabilitation room. The crew of 4 introduced a new element: gentle music from a playlist of uplifting American classics, encouraging Vincent to coordinate small arm and torso movements with rhythmic beats. Nico's enthusiastic counting and Mia's shy participation created an atmosphere of pure joy. Vincent achieved a brief assisted lift in his legs, the sensation sending waves of profound emotion through him. The inner tearing reached new heights as paternal responsibility merged with his powerful position, driving him to question the cost of his past choices. Claire stood nearby during these sessions, her thin frame a living reminder of endured hardships. She experienced fresh shock and confusion at how completely their lives had transformed the mansion's increasing displays of wealth, from heated marble floors to custom therapeutic pools, highlighting the gulf from their former existence. Her voice remained soft when she offered quiet support. "This means everything to them, sir." Her attachment had grown into a deep, protective trust, focused entirely on the healing environment Vincent had created for the children. In the garden's peaceful hush, one evening, Vincent reflected alone before the children rejoined him. The crew of four's innocent kindness had sparked not only physical progress but a profound emotional awakening. His remorse, once paralyzing, now fueled determination. The father-child connections, especially with Lily, stood as beacons of hope amid rising external dangers. Claire's steady presence added another dimension of compassionate healing, her journey from humiliating poverty to protected stability evoking deep sympathy. The stakes continued rising, yet so did the quiet triumphs. Vincent's world, once defined by isolation and power, now expanded through the children's influence, each small step forward, carrying the promise of greater redemption. The mansion echoed with tentative laughter and encouragement, a testament to the healing born from vulnerability and unwavering support. Next morning, pale sunlight struggled through heavy clouds hanging low over Lake Michigan, casting a muted glow across the mansion's fortified perimeter walls. Vincent Moretti reviewed security reports in his private study, the room dominated by dark oak panels and a massive desk carved from centuries-old timber. The estate's wealth manifested in advanced details, encrypted communication systems, hidden surveillance feeds displaying every corner of the grounds, and a vault containing documents that could shift city power balances. Yet these tools of influence only deepened the violent inner conflict raging within him. The physical progress sparked by the children now felt fragile against the growing external threats. His paternal love for Lily clashing brutally with gnawing remorse that his hidden empire had invited danger into their fragile sanctuary. Claire Bennett sorted through new clothes for the children in an adjacent sitting room, her thin fingers tracing the soft fabrics with lingering disbelief. Vivid memories of past humiliations flooded her, the crushing moment when a landlord had seized their few possessions and scattered them in the street, after an eviction leaving the family to scavenge through trash bins for anything usable, while icy winds cut through their inadequate layers. Her malnourished frame still carried the exhaustion of those years, and the sudden immersion in luxury continued to trigger waves of confusion and guarded anxiety. She addressed Vincent through the open doorway with her soft, polite voice. "The children seem more settled, sir, but I worry sometimes that our presence here brings complications." Vincent met her eyes, the protective attachment he felt toward the entire family burning with fierce new urgency. The disparity between her history of desperate powerlessness and his commanding resources created fresh psychological pressure, compelling him to confront the shadows his position had drawn closer. Later that afternoon, the first cracks of betrayal emerged from within. One of Vincent's longtime associates, pressured by external forces, had leaked information about the children's presence at the estate. Word reached Marco Rossi, who saw Vincent's growing attachment as a fatal weakness to exploit. Rossi's crew initiated a series of probing moves, beginning with a tense street confrontation downtown where Vincent's team was ambushed verbally at a neutral loading dock. Rivals blocked access points, issuing sharp demands laced with threats toward unusual vulnerabilities in Vincent's life. Vincent's calm authority diffused the immediate standoff, but the encounter left an unmistakable message: the children were now targets. The crew of four was playing a gentle game of tag in the garden when the first real danger struck that evening. Distant sounds of vehicles approaching the perimeter shattered the peace. Rossi's men had bypassed outer defenses through the insider betrayal, attempting a bold incursion near the back gates. Shouts echoed across the grounds as Vincent's security responded, creating a chaotic but contained situation. The children witnessed the frightening scene from the garden's edge. Headlights sweeping through trees, raised voices in heated confrontation, and the sharp crack of warning signals in the air. Lily's face paled with horror, but her small frame filled with unexpected courage. "We have to help him," she cried, grabbing Tommy's hand. The two older children acted instinctively, rushing toward Vincent's wheelchair as the tension escalated near the terrace. Tommy, drawing on street-honed instincts, helped maneuver the chair while Lily pulled with all her strength. Mia and Nico followed their small legs, pumping in terror and determination. In the condensed chaos, the group dragged Vincent toward the reinforced inner doors, their combined effort shielding him from the unfolding threat. Claire ran to join them, her voice breaking in a timid yet urgent plea. "This way, sir. Please stay with the children." Vincent felt extreme psychological shock tear through his core as he watched his daughter and her friends risk themselves for him. The paternal bond with Lily intensified into something sacred and overwhelming. His heart violently conflicted between profound gratitude for their bravery and consuming remorse that his world had endangered them. This father-child moment, Lily's determined grip, and Tommy's loyal support cemented a connection deeper than blood, even as the betrayal from within left him numb with disbelief. Weeks later, the aftermath lingered in heavy silence. Claire sat with the children in the sunroom, recounting softer stories to calm their fears, though her own inner world had been violently shaken. The absurdity of their situation struck her anew, pulled from nights of sleeping in doorways where rain soaked their only blankets, only to face targeted danger in a place of supposed safety. Dizziness washed over her as she processed the shift, her trust in Vincent evolving into a passionate, protective attachment forged in crisis. She spoke softly to him later. They were so scared, but they refused to leave your side. Vincent's remorse reached new unbearable depths during private reflections by the lakeside. The betrayal had exposed how his powerful position continued to invite unjust suffering, mirroring the unreasonable hardships Claire had once endured, being rejected from community programs while her children went without basic necessities. His love for Lily as his secret daughter created violent emotional turbulence, the father-child bond now strengthened through shared peril. He vowed silently to become the unwavering protector he had failed to be before. Later that night, another bold street confrontation unfolded, when Vincent confronted the source of the leak in a controlled meeting at an abandoned rail yard on the city's outskirts. Rossi's intermediaries appeared, unexpectedly escalating tensions with direct accusations and veiled warnings about future strikes against the new weaknesses. Vincent's commanding presence and strategic words forced their withdrawal, but the encounter heightened the life-threatening atmosphere surrounding the mansion. Returning home under cover of darkness, he found the children waiting anxiously in the hallway, their small faces etched with concern. In the quiet, condensed emotional stillness that followed, Lily approached Vincent's wheelchair and climbed carefully onto his lap for a moment. "I was afraid for you," she admitted, her voice carrying the weight of new maturity. Tommy stood nearby, his earlier distrust fully replaced by fierce loyalty. "We're in this together now." The scene evoked profound father-child connection, Vincent's heart tearing with intense remorse for the dangers his life had introduced, yet filled with burning determination to shield them at all costs. Claire observed from the doorway, experiencing a complex wave of fear and overwhelming attachment. The mansion's escalating displays of wealth, reinforced security systems, emergency medical suites on standby, and stockpiles of resources only highlighted the gulf from their former existence of humiliating deprivation. Her emotions churned with confusing intensity, the psychological shock of nearly losing this new stability, leaving her momentarily off balance. Vincent's inner conflict escalated dramatically in the days that followed. Each interaction with the crew of 4 now carried heightened stakes. During a garden session, the children created a safety fort using blankets and cushions, turning their fear into a creative expression of unity. Vincent participated from his chair, his paternal dedication to Lily, deepening through every shared glance and encouraging word. The remorse for past decisions that had enabled such betrayals gnawed at him relentlessly, yet it fueled a fiercer resolve to dismantle the threats. One overcast afternoon brought yet another test. Rossi's influence triggered a sudden alert at the front gates, leading to a tense standoff where rival vehicles idled threateningly while security held firm. Vincent directed the response with authoritative calm, preventing escalation while the children remained safely inside. The incident left everyone shaken but more bonded, Claire's soft voice offering gratitude amid her lingering anxiety. "You keep choosing us, sir, even when it costs you." In the mansion's peaceful library that evening, surrounded by shelves of rare first editions and comfortable reading nooks, Vincent reflected on the profound shifts. The betrayal from within and the life-threatening danger had tested everything. Yet the children's courage, especially Lily and Tommy's selfless actions, had forged an unbreakable father-child foundation. His emotional world, once cold and calculating, now throbbed with layers of torment and tender responsibility. Claire's journey from extreme poverty to this protected life added another dimension of compassionate healing. Her attachment a quiet force, strengthening them all. The stakes had risen sharply, but so had the depth of their connections. Vincent understood that true protection would demand greater sacrifices yet. In the innocent hearts of the crew of 4, he found the strength to face the coming trials. The mansion, though under shadow, glowed with a new warmth born from loyalty, courage, and the healing power of family forged through adversity. Next morning, a heavy fog rolled in from Lake Michigan, wrapping the mansion in a ghostly veil that muted the usual sparkle of its grand architecture. Vincent Moretti moved through the reinforced corridors in his wheelchair, reviewing updated security protocols with his most trusted advisors in a windowless strategy room lined with monitors and reinforced filing cabinets. The estate's opulence had taken on an even more imposing scale. Newly installed panic rooms stocked with supplies, a private helipad cleared for emergencies, and walls adorned with intricate tapestries depicting American historical resilience. These fortifications, however, only amplified the gnawing remorse that clawed at Vincent's soul. The recent betrayals had exposed how his powerful empire continued to cast long shadows over the one pure light in his life, his secret daughter Lily, turning every protective instinct into a source of violent inner torment. Claire Bennett prepared a quiet breakfast in the sunlit kitchen, her movements careful as she arranged plates of fresh fruit and warm oatmeal. The contrast between this abundance and her former existence struck her with renewed force. The humiliating memory of being denied access to a heated shelter during a brutal winter storm, forcing her and the children to huddle in a condemned building where frost formed on their meager blankets and hunger pains kept them awake through endless cold hours. Her thin, malnourished frame still reflected those years of deprivation, and the weight of recent dangers left her in a state of lingering, guarded anxiety. She spoke to Vincent when he entered, her voice soft and polite. "The children slept better last night, sir. They feel safer when you are close." Vincent felt the paternal attachment to Lily surge with protective fire, his emotional upheaval toward Claire and the family burning with deepened intensity. The disparity between her history of utter powerlessness and his commanding resources created a fresh wave of self-reproach that left him internally reeling. Later that afternoon, the crew of 4 gathered in the garden for what began as a peaceful creativity session. They constructed a large collage on poster boards using magazine clippings and drawings to envision a future free from fear. Lily worked closest to Vincent, her small hands occasionally brushing his arm as she shared ideas. Tommy coordinated the group with growing confidence, while Mia and Nico added colorful borders. In a moment of condensed emotional stillness, Lily leaned in and whispered, "You make us feel like we belong somewhere real now." The tranquility shattered without warning when Rossi's forces launched a coordinated ambush. Several vehicles breached a secondary perimeter through coordinated deception, leading to a tense, bold confrontation near the garden's outer edge. Shouts rang out as rival associates demanded concessions, their presence an unexpected escalation. Vincent wheeled forward instinctively to shield the children, his powerful voice cutting through the chaos to command his security team. In the heightened tension, one assailant broke through, briefly lunging toward the group. Vincent thrust himself between the threat and Lily, taking the full impact of a severe blow meant for her. Pain exploded through his body as he collapsed forward, critically wounded and struggling to stay conscious. Lily screamed in horror, rushing to his side with Tommy close behind. "Daddy," the word slipped out in her panic, the first time she had voiced the hidden truth her heart had sensed. The crew of 4 surrounded him, their small bodies forming a protective circle as security regained control and forced the rivals to retreat in a controlled standoff. Claire arrived moments later, her face drained of color, dizziness, and numbness, overtaking her as she dropped to her knees beside Vincent. The absurdity of nearly losing everything after escaping such degrading poverty left her emotionally shattered. Her trust in him now, a passionate, all-consuming attachment forged in blood and fear. Vincent was rushed by private ambulance to a discreet medical facility, the journey a blur of sirens and flashing lights. In the emergency surgery, wing doctors worked urgently to stabilize him. Claire and the children waited in a private lounge, the room's luxurious furnishings, leather couches, fresh flowers, and stocked refreshments doing nothing to ease the profound psychological shock. Claire paced, her thin frame trembling as memories of powerless nights assaulted her, being ignored at emergency rooms while Lily, burned with fever, turned away for lack of insurance. Now this powerful man who had lifted them from the streets lay fighting for his life because he had chosen them. Hours stretched into a heavy vigil. When the lead surgeon finally emerged, his expression held a mix of astonishment and caution. The first shocking revelation came as he reviewed scans. The consistent emotional support and physical therapy encouragement from the children over these weeks appear to have triggered remarkable neuroplasticity. Areas long dormant are showing new activity. He has regained partial sensation in his legs, something we considered impossible given the original injury. Vincent, drifting in and out of consciousness in recovery, experienced extreme psychological shock as faint feeling returned to his lower limbs. The paternal bond with Lily, who had held his hand through so many sessions, now manifested in this medical miracle. Yet the deeper twist arrived when Claire, summoned to a private consultation, learned the second layer. The doctor revealed documents Claire had quietly submitted months earlier. The patient's housekeeper, you, has been secretly setting aside funds for experimental stem cell trials despite the personal risks involved with his lifestyle. Your contributions, combined with the children's influence, appear to have created a perfect storm for this breakthrough. Claire stood, frozen, waves of numbness and disorientation washing over her. The revelation that her quiet, sacrificial savings, scraped from every spare dollar while enduring hunger and humiliation, had helped save the man who protected her children left her heart violently torn. From desperate poverty to this moment of profound impact, the psychological weight nearly overwhelmed her. She returned to Vincent's bedside, her voice timid and filled with emotion. "I only wanted to give back what you gave us, sir." Vincent, awakening to the news, felt his remaining emotional walls shatter completely. The inner tearing reached its most ferocious peak, violent conflict between overwhelming gratitude for Claire's hidden kindness and consuming remorse that his dangerous world had forced her into such fearful secrecy. His love for Lily as his daughter, and the father-child bond that had driven her healing rituals, now intertwined with this new truth. The paternal dedication surged with passionate intensity, compelling him to vow a complete transformation. Weeks later, during a tense follow-up confrontation on the city's outskirts, Vincent, still recovering but determined, directed his team through another bold street standoff at a secure warehouse. Rossi's representatives appeared with fresh demands, but Vincent's authoritative presence, strengthened by his near-death resolve, forced them into retreat without escalation. The encounter solidified his commitment to ending the cycle of threats. Back in the mansion's recovery suite, filled with advanced monitoring equipment and views of the lake, the crew of 4 visited daily. Lily's gentle presence during therapy sessions now carried even greater meaning, her innocent encouragement directly linked to his partial recovery. Tommy shared quiet stories of street survival that mirrored Vincent's own past, deepening their bond. Mia and Nico offered drawings of strong figures walking tall, their pure hearts reinforcing the miracle. Claire sat beside Vincent in a quiet moment of condensed emotional stillness. The mansion's escalating wealth, from private medical suites to surrounding security, highlighting the gulf from her former life of sleep-deprived desperation. She felt profound attachment, her inner world no longer torn by suspicion but anchored in trust. "You protected my children with your life," she said softly. "We will stand with you through whatever comes." Vincent's remorse had evolved into a driving force for change. The near-death crisis and dual revelations had stripped away his final defenses. His paternal love for Lily, now openly acknowledged in his heart, created the emotional core of his awakening. The father-child connection had not only sparked physical healing, but had begun mending the deepest wounds of his soul. As the family gathered around him, the path forward, though still shadowed by external dangers, glowed with the promise of redemption through courage, sacrifice, and unbreakable bonds. The second shocking twist had irrevocably altered their destinies, binding them closer in the face of adversity. Vincent understood that true power now lay not in his empire, but in the innocent hands that had pulled him back from the brink. Next morning, thin shafts of winter light pierced the heavy drapes of the mansion's lakeside recovery suite, illuminating medical equipment that blended seamlessly with antique furniture. Vincent Moretti sat propped in a specially designed chair that allowed limited mobility, his body still healing from the near-fatal wound. The estate's wealth had expanded visibly around the family, newly reinforced family quarters with custom safety features, a dedicated playroom filled with educational toys and books, and a climate-controlled gallery displaying Chicago sports memorabilia from legendary teams. These luxuries, however, served only to sharpen the gnawing remorse that now consumed Vincent with unrelenting force. The partial return of sensation in his legs, sparked by the children's encouragement, felt like a fragile gift tainted by the blood on his hands. Claire Bennett arranged fresh linens with quiet care, her slender form moving more confidently, yet still bearing the subtle marks of long-term hardship. She recalled with fresh pain the degrading experience of being publicly shamed at a welfare office when her paperwork was deemed incomplete, forcing her and the children to spend another humiliating night exposed to cutting winds in a bus, shelter with nothing but newspapers for cover. Her voice remained soft and polite as she addressed Vincent. "The children have been asking about your progress every hour, sir. They want to show you their new drawings." Vincent nodded, the paternal bond with Lily burning as a steady flame amid his inner storms. His protective love for the family had become the core of his existence, creating violent emotional conflict with the legacy of choices that continued to haunt him. Later that afternoon, the crew of 4 gathered in the sunroom for a storytelling circle. Lily and the younger ones shared tales of hope, but Tommy grew unusually quiet, his usual energy dimmed. Vincent noticed and gently prompted the boy to speak. In the condensed emotional stillness that followed, with only the soft ticking of a grandfather clock filling the air, Tommy hesitantly revealed fragments of his past. "My real dad. He was taken away when I was little. Some powerful people in the city decided he was in the way during one of those gang things." Vincent felt the ground shift beneath him. As Tommy continued, specific details aligned with a buried memory. A rival enforcer Vincent had ordered removed years earlier in a calculated move to protect his territory during a brutal power struggle. The realization struck like a thunderclap. Tommy was the orphaned son of that man. Extreme psychological shock ripped through Vincent, leaving him numb and disoriented in his seat. The fatherly attachment he had developed for the boy, whom he now saw as another child under his care, collided violently with gut-wrenching guilt. This innocent boy who had risked everything to help him carried the consequences of Vincent's own command. The inner tearing escalated into something ferocious and unprecedented. How could he face this child, knowing he had shattered his world? The remorse became a living agony, forcing Vincent to question the very foundation of his criminal legacy. His powerful position, once a source of control, now appeared as the architect of countless unseen tragedies like Tommy's. Claire sensed the sudden shift and felt a wave of horror mixed with anxious curiosity. The mansion's increasing displays of wealth, private chefs preparing feasts, walls lined with priceless art and security that rivaled government facilities, only magnified the absurdity of their journey from powerless poverty. She experienced deep disorientation, her trust in Vincent momentarily shaken by the heavy atmosphere, though her attachment remained a passionate anchor for the children's sake. "Tommy has carried a lot alone," she said softly, her voice timid yet supportive. Tommy looked directly at Vincent, his young eyes searching. "But you're different. You protected us when you didn't have to." The boy's unexpected forgiveness, offered without full knowledge of the truth, tore Vincent's heart further. In that quiet moment, the father-child-like bond between Vincent and Tommy deepened into something profound and redemptive, even as the hidden identity revelation threatened to destroy it. Weeks later, the ultimate test arrived during a necessary journey into the city. Vincent's convoy encountered an unexpected, bold confrontation, orchestrated by Rossi's remaining loyalists near an old stockyard district. The rivals blocked the road in a tense standoff, their voices carrying accusations of weakness and demands for surrender of territory. Vincent, still recovering but driven by new purpose, directed his team with authoritative calm. The exchange grew heated as Rossi's men referenced the street kids as leverage, escalating the drama without physical blows. Vincent's powerful presence and strategic words eventually forced the rivals to withdraw, but the encounter left him physically drained and emotionally raw. Returning to the mansion, Vincent called Tommy to the garden alone. In the golden light of late afternoon, surrounded by the flowers the children had planted, he wrestled with whether to reveal the full truth. The paternal responsibility he felt toward all four children, especially Lily, and now Tommy, created violent inner conflict. His remorse for the gang war decision years ago clashed brutally with the love and protection he now offered. "You have shown me what real strength looks like," Vincent said, his voice heavy with unspoken weight. Tommy's response carried innocent wisdom. "Families get broken all the time on the streets, but maybe they can be made new." The boy's words struck Vincent with fresh psychological shock, deepening the father-child connection through shared vulnerability. Vincent's heart raged with escalating torment, the desire to confess everything, battling against the fear of losing the boy's trust forever. Claire joined them later, her emotions in turmoil after another wave of memories from her past. She had once been denied emergency housing for the children after a particularly cruel bureaucratic rejection, leaving them to wander cold streets until exhaustion forced them to sleep on concrete steps. The contrast with their current sanctuary left her numb with conflicting feelings, yet her attachment to Vincent as the protector of her family burned with steady intensity. She spoke politely, sensing the heavy atmosphere. "Whatever burdens you carry, sir, these children see the good in you." In the days that followed, the revelation's impact unfolded in layers. During a quiet evening in the library, filled with the scent of leather-bound volumes and warm lighting, Lily sat with Vincent and Tommy, unaware of the hidden link. She encouraged them both in a gentle game of strategy, using a classic chess set, her innocent laughter bridging the emotional gulf. Vincent felt the third major twist test every fiber of his being. The guilt over Tommy's father intertwined with his secret knowledge of Lily as his biological daughter, creating an almost unbearable emotional storm. His powerful empire, built on such decisions, now seemed hollow against the pure bonds forming here. Mia and Nico added their own tender moments, drawing pictures of our big family that included Vincent prominently. These small acts of kindness from the crew of four forced Vincent to confront the full cost of his legacy. The inner conflict reached its peak intensity during a solitary night vigil by the lake, where he grappled with the choice to continue his old life or embrace true change. Claire approached him in that stillness, her voice soft with concern. "You have given us more than safety, sir. You have given us hope." Her journey from extreme humiliating poverty to this protected existence evoked profound sympathy, her passionate trust now fully realized. Vincent's remorse transformed into a catalyst for deeper questioning. The hidden identity of Tommy had become the ultimate test of his humanity. Would he allow the sins of his past to destroy the family he had come to love, or would he rise above them? the father-child bonds with Lily as his blood and Tommy as a son of circumstance stood as beacons guiding him toward redemption. The third major twist had laid bare the complexities of forgiveness and legacy. As the mansion settled into peaceful quiet once more, Vincent understood that the path ahead demanded everything from him. The children's innocent hearts had not only healed his body but were now challenging the very soul of the man he had been. In their light, even the darkest shadows of his past faced the possibility of transformation. Next morning, a pale but determined sun broke through the lingering winter clouds over Lake Michigan, casting hopeful beams across the mansion's expansive terrace where therapeutic exercises had become a daily ritual. Vincent Moretti stood with assistance from custom support rails, his legs bearing partial weight for the first time in over a decade. The estate's wealth gleamed in every detail: heated stone flooring beneath his feet, a panoramic view of the private beach, and a newly constructed therapy pavilion equipped with the finest American-engineered rehabilitation tools. Yet these symbols of power felt increasingly hollow against the violent inner conflict tearing through Vincent's soul. The revelations about Lily and Tommy had stripped him bare, leaving his remorse a living fire that no amount of luxury could extinguish. Claire Bennett stood a short distance away, her thin hands clasped tightly as she watched the children encourage Vincent. The memories of her past degradation remained vivid, the soul-crushing humiliation of being publicly searched and dismissed at a food distribution center because her appearance suggested she might cause trouble, forcing her family to endure another night of gnawing emptiness and biting lake. Vince in on Open Park. Her voice carried its familiar, soft politeness as she spoke. "They have been practicing their encouragement words all morning, sir. They believe today will be special." Vincent felt the paternal dedication to the crew of 4 surge with renewed passion, his emotional upheaval toward Claire and the children burning as a guiding light through his torment. The stark gulf between her history of absolute powerlessness and his empire created waves of fresh self-reproach that left him internally trembling. Later that afternoon, the garden became the stage for a profound display of courage. The crew of 4 had prepared a special path lined with handmade markers, each one decorated with drawings representing strength and family. Lily walked closest to Vincent, her small hand steadying his arm as he took tentative assisted steps. "1 foot like we practiced," she coached gently. Tommy provided balanced support on the other side, his loyalty now a quiet force. Mia and Nico cheered with handmade pom-poms, their innocent voices filling the air with pure motivation. In a condensed moment of emotional stillness with only the soft crunch of gravel and the distant call of birds, Vincent managed several real steps, shaky but independent. The sensation sent extreme psychological shock through him, his heart violently torn between overwhelming pride in the children's role and consuming remorse that his past had nearly cost them everything. This father-child triumph, especially with Lily and Tommy at his side, felt like redemption taking physical form. Claire watched, experiencing a surge of anxious hope mixed with lingering disorientation. The absurdity of witnessing such healing after years of unjust suffering, being denied medical vouchers, while Nico battled ear infections in the cold, left her emotionally overwhelmed. Her attachment to this protective sanctuary, now a deep, burning trust. Weeks later, the final confrontation with Marco Rossi unfolded during a calculated operation in the city. Vincent, strengthened by his progress, directed events from a secure location while his team engaged in a series of tense, bold street confrontations across key neighborhoods. At an old rail yard, Rossi's men attempted to block a vital meeting, point their voices raised in aggressive challenges over territory and perceived weakness. Vincent's representatives responded with calm authority, leveraging evidence of Rossi's betrayals to sway neutral parties without physical escalation. The standoff stretched suspense building as Rossi himself appeared via video link, issuing final threats against the new family distractions. Vincent's powerful influence turned the tide. Drawing on long-standing connections and strategic alliances, he systematically dismantled Rossi's operations, freezing accounts, exposing corrupt dealings to authorities through anonymous channels, and isolating the rival's support network. Each bold confrontation carried the weight of his redemption, his remorse fueling precise, decisive action to end the cycle of danger that had threatened the children. Back at the mansion that evening, the crew of 4 greeted Vincent with renewed energy. They had transformed the rehabilitation pavilion into a celebration space, complete with banners and a small, American-style feast of deep-dish pizza and homemade desserts. Lily and Tommy helped Vincent practice more steps around the room, their courage inspiring him to push beyond his limits. In one powerful father-child moment, Lily looked up at him with shining eyes. "You're walking because we believed in you together," Tommy added quietly, "and we're staying because you chose us first." The hidden truths between them hung unspoken but felt deepening the bonds through silent understanding and forgiveness. Vincent's inner world raged with escalating intensity. The redemption unfolding through the children's courage clashed violently with the gnawing guilt over his criminal past, particularly the decisions that had orphaned Tommy. His paternal love for Lily as his biological daughter and for Tommy as a son of circumstance created an almost unbearable emotional storm. Yet it also provided the strength to continue his transformation. Claire joined the celebration, her slender frame moving with greater ease amid the mansion's growing displays of wealth, crystal serving dishes, live musicians playing soft soul melodies and walls adorned with new family portraits. She felt profound psychological conflict. The dizzying contrast between her former nights of sleep-deprived desperation in abandoned vehicles and this moment of collective triumph, leaving her momentarily numb. Her voice was timid and filled with gratitude when she addressed Vincent. "They found their courage through you, sir. And so did I." Later that night, as the mansion quieted, another unexpected street-level development arose. Vincent received word of a final, desperate move by Rossi's remaining associates near the South Side waterfront. He directed a controlled response, his team engaging in one last tense confrontation at a neutral dock area. Sharp words were exchanged with Rossi's men attempting to leverage old grievances, but Vincent's strategic dismantling of their network forced a decisive retreat. The victory carried no celebration for him, only deeper reflection on the cost of the life he had led. In the garden the following day, during a quiet, condensed emotional stillness, Vincent walked a longer stretch with the children surrounding him. Mia and Nico held his hands at times, their small palms, a reminder of the innocent healing they had all provided. The father-child connections had become the foundation of his redemption. Lily's biological tie and unwavering faith, Tommy's hard-earned loyalty, despite hidden pain, and the younger one's pure joy. His remorse, once paralyzing, now drove him to use his remaining influence for good, converting parts of his empire into legitimate community initiatives for street families. Claire stood nearby, her emotions a complex tapestry of past torment and present hope. The unreasonable hardships she had endured, absurd bureaucratic denials that left her family starving while others received aid, made this protected life feel almost dreamlike. Yet her passionate attachment to the safety and healing Vincent had provided for her children anchored her completely. Vincent's heart continued to tear with profound depth as he embraced the full weight of redemption. The children's courage had not only helped him walk again, but had illuminated a path toward becoming the man worthy of their trust. In their eyes, he saw the possibility of breaking cycles of violence and poverty that had defined too many lives, including Claire's. The redemption arc reached new heights through these tender yet powerful moments. Vincent understood that true victory lay not in defeating rivals, but in the courageous hearts of the children who had shown him the way back to humanity. As the crew of 4 laughed together in the garden, the mansion transformed from a fortress of isolation into a home built on forgiveness, protection, and unbreakable family bonds. The path ahead remained challenging, but the light of their collective courage promised a future defined by healing rather than shadows. Next morning, soft golden light bathed the mansion's transformed garden, where pathways once reserved for solitary reflection now echoed with the gentle footsteps of a growing family. Vincent Moretti walked slowly along the lakeside trail, supported only by a polished wooden cane, each step a testament to the long journey from paralysis to tentative freedom. The estate's immense wealth surrounded them in refined elegance. Blooming rose gardens tended by dedicated staff, a custom-built playground overlooking the water and indoor spaces, filled with shelves of carefully selected books representing diverse American stories of resilience. Yet Vincent's heart remained locked in profound inner conflict, the remorse for his past weighing heavier than ever as he observed the children playing nearby. His paternal love for them had become the axis around which his entire world now turned. Claire Bennett watched from a nearby bench, her once thin frame now filling out with the nourishment and rest she had been denied for so long. She carried vivid recollections of the absolute extremity of her former misery, the humiliating nights when she and the children were turned away from every shelter left, to endure freezing winds on concrete, with only thin jackets for protection, their stomachs empty after days of rejected meal. Application. Her voice stayed soft and polite when she approached Vincent. "They have been waiting for this walk with you, sir. It means the world to them." Vincent felt an overwhelming surge of protective compassion, his emotional upheaval toward Claire and the family burning with quiet intensity. The disparity between her history of desperate powerlessness and the sanctuary he provided created fresh waves of self-examination, reminding him that true connection transcended all boundaries of background or circumstance. Later that afternoon, the crew of 4 gathered for a meaningful ceremony in the garden. Lily and Tommy had organized a small event, where each child presented handmade tokens of gratitude drawings, written notes, and small crafted items. In a moment of condensed emotional stillness, with the lake's gentle waves providing a serene soundtrack, Vincent lowered himself carefully to their level. He looked at Lily, his biological daughter, and then at Tommy, whose hidden connection to his past had tested him so deeply. "You have all given me back more than I ever deserved," he said, his voice thick with emotion. The father-child bonds had healed not only his body but the deepest fractures in his spirit. Claire experienced a swirl of profound gratitude mixed with lingering awe. The unreasonable injustices she had faced, absurd bureaucratic barriers that left her family starving while others received aid, made this acceptance feel almost miraculous. She felt no fear now, only a deep attachment rooted in the compassion that had bridged their vastly different worlds, proving that love and kindness could flourish regardless of skin color or economic divide. Weeks later, Vincent made his final decisive moves against the remnants of his old life. During a carefully orchestrated series of encounters in the city, his team engaged in one last set of tense street confrontations near key industrial zones. Rossi's scattered associates attempted a bold challenge at a waterfront meeting point, their voices carrying threats of renewed conflict. Vincent, directing from a position of newfound clarity, used his influence to ensure peaceful resolutions, turning over critical information to legitimate authorities and stepping away from all illicit operations. These confrontations carried no violence, only the weight of his internal transformation as he chose protection of the innocent over power. Back at the mansion, the true resolution unfolded in layers of quiet healing. Vincent officially claimed Lily as his daughter and welcomed Tommy, Mia, and Nico fully into his heart and home. He converted portions of his resources into community centers across Chicago, offering support for families facing the same hardships Claire had once known. In the garden one evening, as the sun painted the sky in hues of amber and rose, Vincent walked unaided for longer stretches while the children surrounded him. Lily held one hand, Tommy the other, their connection, a living embodiment of redemption. Vincent's inner torment reached its most intense peak during these moments of reflection. The gnawing remorse for past decisions that had harmed families like Tommy's clashed violently with the pure joy of fatherhood he now embraced. Yet this conflict drove him toward greater humanity, teaching him that real strength lay in vulnerability and compassion. Through the children's influence, he gained valuable knowledge about the quiet power of forgiveness. Each shared story from the crew of 4 offered a profound lesson in resilience that no amount of wealth could buy. He realized the true education came not from books or power, but from the innocent hearts that showed him the path to healing. Claire stood beside him, her journey from extreme poverty to this protected life, evoking deep emotional resonance. She had once felt dizzy with despair after being rejected from every opportunity, her body weak from sleep deprivation and hunger. Now the overwhelming trust and attachment she felt created a focal point of shared humanity, demonstrating that wealth and poverty could never separate genuine love and compassion between people of any background. In the days that followed, Vincent dedicated himself completely to raising the children with Elena's Claire's steadfast support. They shared simple American pleasures like backyard barbecues and storytelling nights, building a home filled with laughter. The father-child relationships flourished, rich with life values that emphasized empathy, responsibility, and the transformative power of kindness. Vincent often reflected on how the children had provided him with essential knowledge about what truly mattered. Their daily interactions delivered an important lesson in humility that reshaped his worldview. He discovered that genuine education arose from embracing one's flaws and choosing growth over control. One peaceful evening, as the family gathered on the terrace, Vincent spoke from the heart. "You have shown me that compassion bridges every divide. Love sees no color, no bank account, only the shared light within us all." The crew of 4 listened, their presence, a constant reminder of the healing journey. Claire's eyes shone with quiet emotion, her attachment now a source of profound strength for everyone. As the story drew to a close, Vincent found deeper meaning in every small victory. The children's courage had imparted valuable knowledge about the beauty of second chances. Their unwavering support offered a heartfelt lesson in the strength of chosen family. Through their eyes, he received an enduring education in the power of human connection that transcended all obstacles. Another moment brought further knowledge about letting go of the past. Their shared laughter taught a vital lesson in living fully in the present. Ultimately, this experience provided a lasting education in the redemptive force of unconditional love. We wish everyone watching this video good health, a joyful life, and daily peace. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with others to enjoy many engaging videos every day. How did this story make you feel? Does it connect to moments in your own real life? We invite you to share your comments below so the creator can listen to the emotions from deep within the viewers' hearts. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Goodbye for now, and we promise to see you again in the next video. Disclaimer: all stories on this channel are fictional and created solely for entertainment purposes. Any resemblance to real people, events, or places is purely coincidental.